It is 12,000 years ago. You and your friends have found a fantastic patch of fruit trees, but unfortunately, a group of strangers from across the river also wants them. Historically, you would just yell at each other until someone got bored and left. But today, someone picks up a suspiciously heavy rock. How did early humans go from throwing occasional tantrums to inventing organized, premeditated warfare? The answer involves an ancient biological glitch that still explains why you get irrationally angry when someone insults your favorite sports team. This is the story of how we invented war. For the vast majority of human history, we were aggressively non-confrontational. Out in the natural world, animals generally try to avoid fighting to the death unless absolutely necessary, because nature does not provide free healthcare. If a wolf breaks a leg or a lion gets a deep scratch, it starves. For early Homo sapiens, the stakes were identical. A minor puncture wound from a pointy stick meant a slow, miserable death by infection. So early run-ins between rival groups mostly consisted of competitive posturing. You would stand on opposite sides of a valley, wave your arms, make a lot of noise, and try to convince the other guys that you were completely unhinged and not worth the trouble. It was the prehistoric equivalent of honking your horn in traffic and driving away. You are a naked, hairless ape with the bone density of a damp twig and no natural armor. Getting into a physical altercation was a terrible evolutionary strategy. Our ancestors were not noble warriors seeking glory on the battlefield. They were anxious scavengers who preferred the ancient art of running away. The world was practically empty, so if another tribe wanted your cave, it was usually easier to just go find another cave. There was no logical reason to risk bleeding out over a patch of dirt when there was plenty of untouched dirt in literally every other direction, but eventually, the planet started running out of prime real estate. As the ice ages ended and the human population slowly multiplied, those empty horizons began to fill up. You could no longer just pack up and walk over the next hill, because there was already a group of angry people standing on that hill, holding their own pointy sticks. This geographic bottleneck forced humans to confront a very serious mathematical problem. Too many mouths, not enough mammoths. And by this point, our ancestors had already spent 1,000,000 years mastering the art of killing other animals. We had spears, atlatls, and stone axes. We could inflict massive physical trauma from a comfortable distance. It was only a matter of time before someone realized that the exact same physics that applied to a fleeing antelope also applied to the annoying guy from the neighboring tribe who kept stealing your fish. The leap from hunting to raiding was remarkably short, but early violence was not the organized warfare we imagine today. It was messy, cowardly, and opportunistic. A raiding party would wait until the dead of night, sneak into a rival camp, hit someone over the head with a club, and immediately sprint back into the bushes. This was hit-and-run gang violence driven by sheer desperation and the basic mandate to secure calories for your own group by any means necessary. From an animal's perspective, watching a species weaponize the environment against itself must have been incredibly confusing. To turn a species of flight-prone apes into organized killers, evolution had to completely rewire our social psychology. Killing another human being is surprisingly difficult, both physically and emotionally. So to bypass our natural aversion to murdering each other, our brains developed an incredibly potent, double-edged chemical system: extreme in-group love and extreme out-group paranoia. This is where oxytocin comes in. Usually celebrated as the cuddle chemical, oxytocin binds mothers to infants and builds immense trust among tribe members. But it has a dark side. It makes you fiercely defensive of your in-group, and that same reflex makes you preemptively hostile toward the out-group. Your brain draws a biological circle around your 50 friends and family members and labels them human. Everyone outside that circle gets filed as a dangerous, unpredictable threat. This is the origin of dehumanization, a cognitive software patch that lets you treat other people not as individuals, but as an abstract obstacle, standing between you and survival. But solving one problem created a new one. A slightly ridiculous glitch you probably experienced this morning. Because our brains got hardwired to constantly monitor the boundary between us and them, we are now obsessed with tribal signaling. It is the reason humans cover themselves in body paint, wear specific animal skins, or chant the same songs. If you are going to risk your life in a terrifying skirmish over a watering hole, you need absolute certainty that the guy next to you is on your team. Over thousands of years, this paranoia sank deep into our neurochemistry. We are biologically addicted to group identity. We seek out a tribe, fiercely defend its borders, and instinctively distrust anyone wearing the wrong color loincloth. This went deeper than behavior. War literally shaped the human brain, favoring the people who were best at cooperating violently with each other. Real mastery of warfare, though, needed one last ingredient: agriculture. Around 12,000 years ago, humans made the highly questionable decision to stop wandering around and start planting wheat. This changed the survival math overnight. For the first time in history, you had permanent property: granaries full of surplus food, livestock in the pen, a roof that didn't move. You also had a terrifying new vulnerability. You could no longer run away when threatened, because if you abandoned your crops, your entire family would starve. And meanwhile, your giant pile of grain looked incredibly appealing to the starving nomads wandering by. Suddenly, violence was no longer just an opportunistic midnight raid. It was a permanent institution. We had to build walls. We had to train young men not just to hunt, but to stand shoulder to shoulder in a line and refuse to retreat. War became an industry. The chaotic ambushes of the Paleolithic era gave way to formations, tactics, and weapons built for one purpose only: killing humans, like swords and shields. We stopped fighting merely to survive the week and started fighting for wealth, territory, and status. And just like that, humanity had industrialized murder. The hardware running in your skull right now is the exact same hardware that defended those ancient grain silos. Our whole modern world sits on top of this ancient tribal architecture, and it leaks into our daily lives in deeply absurd ways. Why do you feel genuine, heart-pounding anxiety when someone criticizes your favorite political party on the internet? Because your primitive brain does not understand the concept of digital discourse. It registers an attack on your group identity as a literal threat to your physical survival. If your tribe loses status, you might get exiled, and in the Pleistocene, exile meant getting eaten by a bear. We no longer fight over berry patches, but we pour that exact same primate aggression into synchronized stadium waves, vicious sports rivalries, and arguing with strangers in YouTube comment sections. We buy jerseys in our team's colors, paint our faces, and scream collectively at the outgroup, which in this case is just a bunch of guys from a neighboring city wearing slightly different colored shirts. It is the exact same tribal signaling our ancestors used before throwing rocks at each other, only now it's safely sanitized by corporate sponsors and a referee. So, how did we invent war? Not because we are inherently evil monsters. We did it because we were incredibly vulnerable animals who ran out of space, learned how to throw things, and eventually settled down to guard our giant piles of wheat. And here is the tragedy of it. The exact same biological machinery that makes us capable of immense love, self-sacrifice, and teamwork is the machinery that lets us march in formation and destroy people we have never met. The line between a cooperative utopia and a bloody battlefield mostly comes down to who happens to be standing inside your circle of empathy. So the next time you catch yourself getting furiously angry at a rival sports fan, or feeling that strange rush of adrenaline during a heated internet debate, just take a deep breath. You aren't actually fighting for your life. You are just running a 10,000-year-old software protocol designed to keep you from losing your livestock to the guys across the river.